SLRMagic have kind of kitted everything together to make it very simple for you to just straight away start shooting anamorphic. And once you do, it's actually a lot of fun. It's this nice cinematic look, which is very, very unique. It makes you realize after you shoot it how flat everything looks, you know, when you're shooting regularly. I think it's a really, really cool piece of machinery. And at least for the first few days of getting it, I was just amazed at how simple it was to use, because I was coming from trying to get a projector lens to work well enough for me to be able to shoot something properly. I did so many little DIY mods to try and get my Bell & Howell Filmorama to work for me. So it was kind of interesting, you know, it was a fun process, but to be able to just straight away just grab the adapter, switch it on, stick it onto a lens and use it, to me was like a godsend. Now as time went on, I started trying to use the lens more and more for actual jobs. And one of the things that I did was, there were two performances by local guitar musician Az Samad that I was shooting. One was for a TV show and one was for, you know, just for YouTube. And I don't know, something in me just thought, okay, I know this is for TV, it's standard definition TV, but to hell with it, I'm gonna try and shoot this anamorphic and then I'll crop it later on. But because it was a performance, I know I was going to use two cameras, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity for me to test out the SLRMagic Anamorphot in comparison to one of the projector lenses. And the things that I found were interesting was, it was so much easier, number one, for me to set up the SLRMagic Anamorphot. It was really, really easy for me to just slap that thing onto a camera. I was using it on a 35mm f2 Canon FD lens on a Sony FS100. And it was really easy for me to just slap that on and shoot handheld, which is something I hadn't really done with anamorphic before. In fact, one of the first tests I did, camera test with my girlfriend while she was working, was to shoot handheld, just to see whether I could. And it was really freeing to be able to just shoot anamorphic handheld, because I usually shoot a lot of stuff handheld. The other lens, which was the Bell & Howell Filmorama, I had that on a tripod, and straight away you could see the comparisons, because, okay, first off, the advantages of the SLRMagic Anamorphot were that I could go handheld, that I was free to move around, that it was easy for me to use, that there were diopters for me to easily get close-up shots. Great. Now what the Bell & Howell Filmorama had, which the SLRMagic didn't, was it had a lot more character, for one. It was nowhere near as sharp in terms of image quality, and in some cases it was downright grainy and really tough to use in comparison to the SLRMagic, which was very clean, almost you know, that very digital clean. And the other thing was the flares. Now if you're using anamorphic lenses, and one of the main reasons for using it is for the flares, one of the things that older projection lenses have that this brand new lens doesn't have is that they have a lot more characteristics when it comes to the flares. I found that I was using the Bell & Howell Filmorama more for close-ups, playing around with a lot of the backlight, because Oz is the type of musician that moves around a lot. So I'd always have a light behind him, and I'm playing around with the flare on that. In the meantime, that same backlight on the SLRMagic is this thin blue flare, which sometimes was just distracting. Now when you were using that blue flare right, it looked great, but other times, because sometimes like on a wide shot it looks so thin, it just looked like, can we flag that up? I just don't want to see that flare right now. The flares on the Bell & Howell look so much more sexier, you know, because one of the things that I like about the Bell & Howell Filmorama is that the flares are the same color as the light. You know, like if you're shooting an orange light, you get orange flares. You shoot at a white light, you get white flares. They're these multiple layer flares, you know. Much more of the Star Trek look, the J.J. Abrams look, than this one. This feels more like when you're shooting, when you see like a movie, let's say for example, Die Hard, where when a bright light source pops up, you see those flares for a second and then the camera turns away, you don't see those flares anymore. But then again, the SLRMagic Anamorphot has so many more advantages over the Filmorama. For example, on the Filmorama, on an APS-C sensor, the widest lens I can use is an 85mm, which doesn't give me much room. Even on a full frame, I can't use 100mm on it unless at night. you know, because if I use it in the day, the annoying thing with that lens as well is it's encased in this silver finishing, and also the inside rim is silver. So it flares inwards and you start seeing this weird white vignette. I mentioned that the flares are one of the things about the Anamorphot which is a bit meh, you know, like if you use it properly, great, but the blue flares are also very, very clinical, I find. So it's really up to you aesthetically. I like this lens predominantly to create the overall anamorphic look and a true CinemaScope 235 frame. Some of the other things that I don't like about the lens, the more I use it, the more I find little quirks that I might not be too happy about. Build quality overall, I mean the build quality is decent, but it's little things like, you see the thread on this, you know, it's not really closing properly, which is annoying. Like it kind of closes but doesn't, everything doesn't feel like, the threads in general, they're kind of, I don't know, they're not something I'm too happy with. Like, okay, this is the first time I've actually managed to close it properly. I think it's because it's on camera. You know, this material, it's that kind of, what's the term? Is it anodized metal? I don't know. I don't know what this material is called, but what I know is I don't like it when you have to screw things together because of that sound. This, let's see if you can hear this. The freaking, every time I have to close this filter, sends chills down my spine. It's like, you know, claws on a chalkboard. And there's a weird thing, like that one, the cap is made of the same material, and then the caps for the other ones are rubber, which isn't as painful. You see that? I'm not sure why that is. Yeah, this one's rubber as well for the 58. So I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, it's little things like the build quality is overall okay, but it's something about this material of metal, especially when you have circular parts. Ugh, that sound. And there's something about that sound that does not instill confidence in me. You know, because it really makes me wonder whether it's gonna last or not. You know, the glass itself, great, wonderful, love it. It's this metal, I don't know what kind of metal it is. I didn't look it up. All I know is that I'm not a big fan of it. I don't know. It's one of the things that I wasn't too happy about in terms of the build quality. So, long story short, would I recommend it? Absolutely. You know, in terms of trying to get an anamorphic look at an affordable price, the SLRMagic Anamorphot is actually really great value for money. Like, there are a few things that I don't like about it, the build quality, for example, that metal. But it all boils down to this, the fact that you can just take this lens, slap it onto your lens, take maybe less than 2 minutes to adjust it and tune it right, and that's it. You're ready to shoot, you're ready to go. It might take a while to get used to the way you focus and to get your eyes used to the fact that everything's slightly stretched out. Then once you get the hang of it, you're fine. And actually when you start shooting things regularly, you start going, why does everything look so squishy? So there you go. I hope you found this review informative. There's a bunch of videos of people using the SLRMagic Anamorphot right now, so go online, research it and check it out. And If it's still out of your price range, don't worry, because next week I'm going to do a little video to show some of the more low budget DIY ways that you can create that anamorphic look, both using filters and little DIY filters or using posts. Until then,